Welcome back to today's Love Transformation class. And I'm thrilled to introduce a brand new love expert to the panel this year. We're going to be talking about how to love and not lose yourself. And it's a pleasure to introduce Teal Elisabeth. Welcome.
Thank you, Pia. So glad to be here with you.
This is a pretty interesting topic because I think if we are honest with ourselves, most of us in some ways have kind of like tried really hard to merge more into coupleness with a partner. Or what was it about this topic that made you inspired to share?
Yeah, absolutely. This has been a theme that's been coming up recently with a lot of the clients that I've been working with. And I recently just did a post about it. And it was just so interesting to see how many women were coming out of the woodwork being like, oh my gosh, this is me. Oh my gosh, I didn't even realize that I'm doing this. Oh my gosh, I'm struggling with this. And so I thought it would be really good to just be able to massage this out with you and talk about this deeper and even just bring more awareness to this concept, right? Because I think that there are a lot of times as women, we pride ourselves in being independent, got our shit together, badass bitches, right? And then we get into a relationship, and I talk about this a lot, this idea of the crazy girl. And it's like, we go along, and everything's great, and we've met this new man, and then over time, as we're starting to really develop feelings, it's like we start to freak out and say, oh my gosh, I think I really like this guy. I really think there's something here. He's actually checking all the boxes. And we shift out of that cool, collected, calm, amazing woman that we were. And it's almost like we're taken over by this concept of the crazy girl. And she comes out and honestly, the poor, sweet, crazy girl, she just really wants to make sure that everything's okay. And she wants to be sure that he's not going to run away and that this is really good, and to be validated for like, yes, this is real, this is happening, right? But what can come through in the energy can be very, very starkly different from the woman that he originally was attracted to. And so I think that this concept is just really, really important, like I said, to bring awareness to, of asking yourself, for all of you beautiful listeners and watchers right now, just thinking about your past relationships. And if you've noticed yourself falling into this pattern a little bit, right? Where you're feeling calm, you're feeling good, you've been doing all this beautiful work on yourself. You're like, you know what? Yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready to meet the one. Okay, right? And then he comes forward and you're like, oh crap, here he is. And we start to lose that calm. We start to lose that cool collectedness. Have you noticed that as well, Peta, with women that you've spoken to, this being kind of a theme?
Yes, and I can totally admit to having done that myself, especially having anxious attachment. We're a little bit prone to that. What I'm curious about, though, is what do you think are some of like the telltale signs, aside from a feeling of like, oh, now I'm really freaking out about losing this guy, from a behavioral perspective, how we're acting, what sort of might be showing up in that dating experience or in that relationship? What would be some of the signs that we would be able to tell, okay, I'm kind of like losing myself here?
Yeah, I think first it's going to be about just how much focus this person is now kind of taking over in your life, right? Because before he comes into your life, you've got your things, you've got your hobbies, you've got your girlfriends, you've got your things that you're doing. But if you're starting to kind of let those focuses dwindle in replacement of spending all this time and energy and even just mental focus on this new person, this is a telltale sign that something might be flaring up in terms of being on the slippery slope of losing yourself, right? Not to say, of course, when someone new is coming into your life, you're going to want to spend time and energy with them. But it's so important to recognize that they are just one tiny aspect of your life, right? And that they don't become all consuming of your life. And that's something that I see a lot, right? It's like a new man comes into the picture, the girlfriends drop away, the hobbies drop away, the self-care drops away, and we just glommed on really just wanting to make this work. And that's really when the energy shifts and they can sense it. Men can sense that energy shift. I think another big thing is just that leaning forward energy that starts to happen, right? Maybe in the beginning you were just feeling really chill, you didn't really care if he messaged you very often. It was like, yeah, cool, we're just getting to know each other. But once you start to really develop feelings, it's like, it's been 2 hours. Why hasn't he texted me? Oh crap, what's going on? Right. So just noticing if you're finding yourself in that more leaning forward energy of checking your phone and waiting for him to talk and call, and those expectations that start to build as we're developing these feelings. And it's such a natural thing. And I agree with you, Peta. I have definitely been there. The crazy girls come out hardcore. And in a sense, it's been a really good learning opportunity for me, right? And I've used that learning opportunity in a lot of different areas of my life about just releasing attachment, because I think that's what it is, right? Our mind starts to get attached, and maybe even our hearts start to get attached before he's even shown up to prove himself that he actually can be that man for you, right? We go into the crazy girl dreaming. That's another one, right? The daydreaming of just like, okay, our life's going to be like this and all the possibilities, and this is what it could be like. It's really important in these early days to just stay very grounded in the reality of what things actually are, right? And this is something I have to remind my sweet clients with when they start getting into that little panicky mode. It's like, you've only known him a month, right? This is still new. This is almost as if you were looking to meet a best friend, right? And this is a way that it's a tool that I want to just give each of you right now to really have something to hold on to if you start to fall into that. Is just when you find yourself kind of crazy girl's coming up, the anxiety's coming up, you're feeling leaning forward, reminding yourself, if I was looking at this man as a new girlfriend that I just met, right? How would I be responding to her? Would I be so concerned about if she was going to be texting me all the time, right? If we had a few great hangout sessions and then I didn't hear from her for a week, how would I be thinking about that? Probably I'd be thinking, well, she just got busy. She'll get back to me when she can, right? But for some reason, when we put it into this energy of a potential soulmate or the one, we add so much pressure to it and we add so many more expectations to it. And that's when we can really suffocate something that was really unfolding very naturally.
Some of the detrimental aspects of losing ourselves are obvious, right? The lack of self-care, the lack of investing time and energy into friends, a few of the things that you mentioned. But then there's some things that are perhaps less obvious in terms of what impact this actually has on this new or budding or developing connection that you have with this man. And so you've just sort of touched on that. I'd love to dig into that a little bit more, what impact that might have on this new relationship.
Yes, I'm so glad that you're digging in on that, because this is really the world that I love to play in. And I call this whole concept relationship energetics, because in a sense, relationships are all energy. Everything that we are doing and the ways that we're interacting with others is just an exchange of energy. And so the more that we can start to become aware of how our energy is coming out and coming off to men, the more we're going to be able to actually kind of funnily be in control, right? The mind wants to be and feel in control. And that's why it kind of jumps into the crazy girl mode and the anxiety mode. But when really, it's really about the heart, right? And if we can be controlling how our energy is coming forward, then we don't have to worry and stress from the mind. So the losing yourself on a deeper level, besides, like you said, the more surface level things, it's really about a deep shift that happens in your energy frequency when you are getting into this place. Because when we're in that place of feeling nervous and leaning forward and being anxious and not knowing what's going to happen, and maybe just kind of shifting who we are as a person so that he'll like us, we're actually discounting and giving our power away, like you mentioned. We are saying that his validation or his attention is more important than how I feel on my own. And when we do that, it's like this subconscious energy just starts leaking out of us of insecurity. And it's icky, and they can feel it. And even if you're trying so hard on the surface to be like, I'm fine, I'm cool, I don't need to hear from him, it's all good, right? And we all do that, right? I don't need to talk to him, I don't need to hear from him, it's fine. If it's not in alignment with how we're really actually feeling, it's going to come through subconsciously in every cell of our body, and he can feel it from a million miles away. And so that energy is actually a pushing away energy. And this is, I think, the biggest thing that was really hard for me in the beginning, but also was the biggest kind of aha moment for me, was when I realized that I could be in control of my energy. And if that was the only thing I was controlling, that would be the shift. That's when everything shifted. Right. And so I was able to get into this point, because I used to be, I used to be the typical like serial dater. I found myself in a pattern of dating cycles for over 8 years. 8 years, I was stuck in the same pattern. And I lovingly now call it the hook and fizzle, where I would hook men in with this allure of being this independent go-getter, got my life together. And then a few months into dating, I would start to lose myself, exactly this concept. And I would turn into this other version of myself that was really trying so hard to seem okay, but deep down I wasn't okay. I was really nervous. I was really insecure. I was really afraid of letting a man into my heart. And when I started to realize that I could drop my walls, I could actually connect into my own heart and hold my energy and my power in my own heart, that's when he was able to actually feel that shift. And I was in congruence with my energy.
And I suspect that, a lot of times when women are kind of like a little bit baffled, what happened? He was so interested. He was so keen. He was, trying so hard in the beginning. And then, like you said, things fizzle out. I do think that this is such an important topic that we're talking about today, because I think it's such a major contributor as to why these early stage relationships don't gain the momentum that we hope that they gain. And I'm really pleased that you've got some beautiful strategies and techniques for how to actually shift into the right energy and out of this. But before we go into that, into more detail, I think it's really worth kind of exploring a little bit more what's underneath that. Like, what is it within us? What is that identifying? What insecurities is this bringing up that allowing us to shift into this state of needing and seeking approval, of wanting to please, of giving away our power, of losing ourselves?
Yeah. I think it's going to vary a little bit from woman to woman based on their past experiences. I know for me, there was a very big belief that I had that if I admitted that I actually wanted a relationship, that would mean I was needy and insecure. And so in a sense, I was almost hiding and protecting my insecurities by pretending that like I didn't need a man. When if I really was able to just lean into this fear of admitting that, yes, I do want love, and yes, I do want companionship, then I wouldn't be trying to like masquerade it as all of these other things that made me seem cool, right? Because when I was masquerading, pretending like I didn't need a man, that's when I would start to shift parts of my personality when I was around him, or I would hold back on saying the things that I was really feeling with him. And that's when he would be like, I don't quite get it. You're not quite, there's something off about you, right? So I think that can be a big part of it, just that insecurity of just acknowledging like, yes, I want this. And that doesn't make me needy and that doesn't make me insecure. I'm allowed to feel like that is something I want to have in my life. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? That was a real liberating moment for me to feel that and embrace that. I think it can also just come from a place of not feeling fully good enough, right? And just wanting to be reassured that someone sees us as good enough. And so if they're not fully feeding that on a daily basis through messaging and contact, then all of a sudden that void is being very highlighted, right? So again, that's not necessarily anything they're doing or not doing. It's just, once again, a beautiful reflection of where you get to continue to strengthen and take your power back. And I think another really important concept that I want to talk about here is that I've noticed that there is a stage in dating where men are naturally going to pull away.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Like,
yes, let's talk about this.
Have you noticed this?
Mm-hmm.
I talk about this all the time. What happens when he ghosts you, right? It's like, I had a client today. She's like, he's all of a sudden, everything was going great. And then I haven't heard from him in a week. What's going on? And she's racking her brain. What did I do wrong, right? So I also want to recognize that you may have not actually done anything wrong. and that there is a phase that's very common. And when I was telling her it was very common, it like instantly just made her feel so much more at peace. She's like, okay, I haven't done anything wrong. It's not necessarily more work that I have to do on myself. It's just that men, in a sense, they're testing the strength of the relationship, right? So in the early phases of dating, they may be really enjoying your company. They may be really thinking, wow, this chick's pretty cool. I could totally see something with her, right? But they want to set the tone and pace on their terms, not on your terms. And so if things are kind of going along and maybe things are getting a little hot and heavy too fast, or they're just feeling like, wait a second, I don't know if I'm ready to fully dive in and commit yet, they're going to naturally just kind of pull away and see how you respond. And this is a test, my loves. It is a test for you. How do you respond when he pulls away? Because in this moment, it's very easy to want to glom back on, right? Uh-oh, like he's pulling away. Does that mean he's running away? Like, no, it doesn't mean he's running away. It's almost like a rubber band, right? He's testing the strength of the relationship and the tension of the relationship. And if there isn't that tension, then the relationship can kind of feel floppy, just like a rubber band. And so the more that we can really show and prove in ourselves that, yes, I want a relationship. Yes, I'm really enjoying your company. Yes, I really want this to work so bad, but I'm okay in myself. I'm secure in myself. And if you need to take some space to go do your bachelor thing, I know that I am such an amazing catch that you'd be missing out, right? So I'll be here. I may not always be here, but I will be here. And when you're ready to come back, I will receive you with open arms, right? And that is, again, helping to shift the energy so that you're not coming back into that place. If he pulls away, he comes back and you're like, where have you been? What's going on? What's wrong, right? It's really in a place of just saying, I'm so secure. I'm so grounded in who I am. And I know that I am worthy of what I truly desire. And I hope that that gets to be you, but I'm not going to put that pressure on it being you. And all of these little mindset, I think, things, these little sound bites, ladies, I want you to write down these sound bites and just like hold on to them, right? Because when you're getting into those moments in the grips of the crazy girls trying to eat at you, I want you to hold on to these sound bites as remembering that this is really common, right? That this is a test from the universe, and that the more that you can prove to yourself that you are secure and that you are fully in your power and that you are allowed to feel how you feel, but that doesn't have to dictate anything, that's what's going to shift the energy. And he's going to come back and go, wow, okay, I've got a keeper.
Yeah, it's so important. And I think, like you pointed out, just actually knowing to expect that it's a very likely and very predictable phase of a developing relationship. I think just knowing that can, at least you can be pre-warned, pre-armed to have that happen, and to know it's not necessarily a sign that things have completely shifted. Something that came to mind as you were speaking, I know that Dr. John Gray from the Mars and Venus books, he also talks about if we've spent a lot of time in proximity with a new partner, what tends to happen is he ends up tending to spend a lot of time in his feminine, in that bonding and connecting and emotionally intimate space, which does activate a different type of neurochemical, which essentially means that he's getting less testosterone when he's spending more time around women, right? And often that stepping away and getting back in control of his life and hanging around with his mates and doing testosterone-inducing activities is a really important part of that process, whereas we've just probably spent, like these weekends having these dreamy romantic experiences, and then it's like, where's he gone?
Totally. And I love that you bring that up, because we have to kind of zoom out for a second and just see this for what it is, right? Although it is a deeper relationship than just a girlfriend relationship, it still is just connection with another human being, right? The rules are still the same, and everybody needs that healthy breathing space. So I think in the not losing yourself, this is a really key component, is just reminding yourself that even when things are going really good, even when you're really excited about a new man, it's really important to make sure that we're still being our whole and complete self, and that we're not giving away too much of our energy, our emotions, or our time to this new person until they've really shown up consistently and proven that they want to be that constant piece in your life, right? And then you can slowly start introducing more of your energy and more of your time and more of your emotions. But I think the disconnect that can happen is that we just jump too far too soon, and we really want it so bad, right? And we're feeling all the potentials come through, and so we allow ourselves to just fully give everything before they've really proven to you that they can even be that man for you.
I'd love to hear a bit more about what you did, how you became more connected into yourself, and what was the evolution of your journey to no longer.
Yeah. I think more than anything, what started it all for me was just being in this pattern for so long, right? It's like I didn't even know that anything was necessarily wrong. I just kept dating and dating and dating and just wasn't working out. I'm like, okay, well, I'll just keep waiting. I'll just keep, dating and finding the right person when he comes around. I had no idea that there was this whole underlying world of myself that I had never explored. And it wasn't until a really, really painful breakup where it was just happening again that I remember I was in my car and I was crying, and I was supposed to be training a woman on the job site. And I'm just crying in front of her. I'm just like, I'm sorry, I need a moment. Another man just broke up with me. I'm so pissed. And I don't know what I'm doing wrong. And she says, have you ever thought about like looking into getting a relationship coach? And it had never crossed my mind, because I don't think relationship coaching, or maybe it has now become more normalized, but back then you just figure it out on your own, But I think for me, having that opportunity to have someone reflect back to me the parts of myself that I couldn't see was so game changing for me, because I didn't know what I didn't know, right? I didn't know that I had walls up. I didn't know that I was over operating in my masculine energy for so long, until someone is able to reflect back and say, have you considered this? Have you thought about this? And I was like, aha, okay. And from that moment, everything was able to 180. And that was really, I think, the real diving into the depths of my own personal journey with this was just wanting to understand myself on a deeper level, and so that I could get to the end goal of having the one. And I ended up loving the work so much that I ended up becoming a relationship coach, because I was like, I need to master this. I want to learn every inch of this. This is so fascinating. And from that point, it's just been really beautiful to be able to start to just see the common themes that come through. And I think, especially in the modern day, the reason I call my company Relax Into Love is that I really see there being a huge backlash in relationships, something I haven't seen from past generations, where this whole concept of masculine energy and being this badass go-getter kind of, feminist, strong powered woman has become so idolized and so put on a pedestal that women are usually much more comfortable just being in that go-getter energy. But yet when we bring that energy into a relationship, it tends to backfire, right? Or clash. And so for me, I really see myself as wanting to step forward as a role model for women and saying, we get to continue to be those amazing, powerful, badass women, but we can also shift in our energy when we're around men, so that we still create space for them to be the man in the relationship, right? In the energy space, so to speak, of the relationship. Because I think for the end of the day, for most of us, and I'm generalizing for heterosexual women, of course, here, but I think for most heterosexual women that are really craving that masculine man, we want to be taken care of. We want to be able to relax. We don't want to have to be the ones planning the dates and strategizing everything and moving the relationship down the timeline. We want a man to come in and say, I want to swoop you up and take you off to happily ever after, right? So that's been really my goal as I've deepened into it for my own work, and have been able to fully transform my life. And now I've attracted in the love of my life and my now husband. and be able to help other women to be able to do the same, to be able to balance out these energies and still keep their power without losing all of the juiciness that I think that they're comfortable with.
Yes, such beautiful and important work, Teal, because I think sometimes we may be a little bit confused, or we may be a little bit conflicted with the kinds of things that we want, because as modern women, we do want to have, we don't want a traditional relationship where we're a housewife and a mum. Not, I mean, some of us do, but by and large, what we tend to desire is something that feels a little bit more equal. But yet we're still working with old programming, right? Evolutionary programming between men and women.
Mm-hmm. It's a really interesting dynamic and this is literally my whole wheelhouse, right? And what I feel like I've really understood and mastered and be able to create in my relationship too. I am a kick-ass go-getter, right? And I love that. And I'm an ambitious CEO, entrepreneurial woman. And yet I still have a very masculine partner that is able to hold that masculine role and that masculine energy. And so when I'm in my business and doing all the things, I'm doing that, right? But when I come home to him, it's almost like I get to shift my energy and step into a different role so that he gets to feel like that energy is in balance again. Because we don't want to be necessarily attracting super feminine men. That's not necessarily what we're excited about, right? We want to have that polarity. And so it's up to us to be able to take that shift and be able to step into both essences of our being. And I think that that's something that is not necessarily talked about enough, is that we don't have to sacrifice everything that we are to get the guy that we want, right? Going back to the losing yourself. We don't need to change who we are as amazing, powerful women and ambitious women. We just get to bring out a whole nother essence of our being that has been suppressed for a very long time or not allowed to feel safe. And that's really the beauty of this work, is bringing out this other essence of who you are, the goddess essence, right? The queen essence that complements that masculine, ambitious side of yourself.
Especially, I think, when we've grown up, we've gone through educational institutions which have essentially rewarded us and ranked us and rated us for our performance and our output and being all of those things that we would associate more with masculine. Often we've had our parents acknowledge us for those things. Yay, so we've been used to receiving this admiration or receiving love for being more in the masculine, that we almost forget by the time we get to starting to date and being serious about a relationship, that they're not actually the things that men are attracted to. Really.
This was my biggest conundrum. That was exactly me. Absolutely. Yeah. And since being able to really dive into the work of the feminine energy, I now feel like I've been able to balance those two energies out really well, where I call it being strong on the inside and being soft on the outside. And to me, that is the sweet spot, where men can respect the hell out of you for being that badass, right? But they still want to come home to you and love on you and adore you for the sweetness. Mm-hmm. And I think that a lot of women are afraid to show the sweet, soft side because they don't want to be discounted. They don't want to lose that respect. And they're afraid that if they show their soft side, that's going to make them emotional or needy or clingy. And there's a very big difference in that energy.
Yeah. And curiously, would you say that then finding that nice balance and being able to embody more of that feminine soft side, would you say that that's actually practices and a way of being that we need to learn? Or would you say it's more of just an unlearning of old programming, that it is naturally who we are and it's not anything we need to learn? It's just, like you said, relaxing into love.
Mm-hmm. Great question. Yes, I would say it's definitely more of the latter. We are already innately feminine beings, I think, just as being women. And once again, I know I'm speaking very generally to a very specific type of woman, right? So I recognize there are lots of different variations of how women identify. But speaking to the heterosexual woman that identifies, it's like, yes, I feel like a woman. We tend to be hardwired to feel more in that essence. And I think it's just been so shoved down by conditioning that it's almost been made to feel not safe to show up in that essence. And that's really what I help and support women to do, is to come back home to their truest self, to their highest essence of themselves, and then give themselves permission to start letting those layers fall away so that they can really allow that golden light energy to shine through. Yeah. And the beautiful part is that we don't lose the strength if we do it in this way, right? We're not changing ourselves. We're just allowing more of ourselves to come online.
And you have a gorgeous free gift for all the women that are listening that really want to explore this in a little bit more detail. Tell us about your free training.
Yeah. So if any of you ladies are just thinking, oh my God, you're speaking my language, I have a really beautiful invitation just to kind of explore this concept in more depth with me. And this is a free training that I've created that's called How Ambitious Women Become Magnetic to High Quality Men Without Dimming Your Shine or Sacrificing Your Power. And so we'll leave the link for that. And yeah, just packed with juicy nuggets that I think you guys are going to really, really love.
Beautiful. Definitely grab yourself a copy of Teal's free training. And thank you so much for gifting that to our audience. Final thoughts. What else would you like to share before we wrap up?
Yeah, just bringing it full circle, I think, coming back to that place of, if you're afraid of losing yourself in a relationship, I think it's just something, one, that is just, I'm appreciating you for even taking the time to listen to this and bring awareness to this, right? Because even just having the awareness of noticing, is this something I'm doing? Could I be doing this? How can I protect myself from doing this? Is going to already set you up just millions of miles ahead of women that are just blindly going through and just hoping for the best, right? So I think that I just want to honor and celebrate each one of you for listening to this and just taking note and just letting this seep into your mindset. And then secondly, just giving yourself a lot of compassion, right? We're all on a learning journey. I know Peta and I have had our own tons of mistakes along the way, but that's what makes us more rich human beings and more able to teach on this, right? So every experience you're having is in its divine timing. I know you may hate me for saying that, but it really is in its divine timing, and it's there to serve a purpose. And I think that the more that you can just bring intentionality and awareness to every situation that comes towards you, the quicker you're going to be able to learn those lessons and shift through those patterns so that you can get moving forward into the next stages of your life. So that's what I would love to leave it with.
Beautiful. And I totally agree. And I'd also just add to that as well, that I do also see the beautiful women that have actually been willing to look at their patterns and invest in themselves, in their time and energy and resources to shift some of these patterns, end up going on to have the most beautiful conscious relationships that they probably wouldn't have likely attracted in before. So
Yes.
yeah. Ladies, we will see you all tomorrow for another amazing love transformation class.